Hi, welcome everyone to today's panel discussion on the top 4 trends in enterprise software in 2023 and beyond. I'm especially thankful to have Jorge and PJ here with us today. Both PJ and Jorge are internationally recognized industry expert analysts, where we're very grateful for them to take the time out of their days to be here today. Whereas PJ is focused on the enterprise applications market, Jorge is focused on BI, data management, and BPM. So Jorge, PJ, it's a pleasure to be here with you guys today. I know we have some very interesting trends to cover. And although we're not going to be able to cover all of them, there's so many out there. We did pick the top 4 that have been relevant to the research, or we find particularly important, and are very relevant to the recent research that you guys have been doing in recent months. And some of the publications that you've shared, which, by the way, to the audience, we invite you to check out all of these publications. They're available in TEC's library at www.technologyevaluation.com. Please check them out so you can stay on top of the latest and greatest. So with that being mentioned, I'd like to start with the discussion on the importance of knowing or being aware of these trends. And PJ, if it's okay, I'd like to just start with you. Great. Can you please share with us, why is it important for business decision makers like managers and executives to that are specifically in those roles to be aware of these enterprise software trends taking place in 2023 and beyond?
For sure. And maybe can I ask you to please maybe advance to the first slide, and is this going to be sort of a first slide out of somewhere 75, 80 that we are going to present today, right? Just kidding, relax.
Not really.
we only have about a handful of slides. So, but in any case, joking apart, this slide is showing a number of challenges that we keep hearing on a daily basis on TV and in the press. And it is apparent that we are in a treacherous global economic environment. And look at all these challenges, ongoing challenges. So only maybe 2 or 3 of them would make any CEO or a business manager have numerous sleepless nights, let alone all of them. And believe me or not, there are some companies that need to struggle with all of these. So can you really afford in this kind of environment not to be proactive and not to know what is out there, what kind of technologies can really help you, in surviving this, cutthroat, infested sharks environment? So really, if you are still using some outdated and inferior technology, a la Yugo, to use the car examples, and your competitors are using the latest Volvo or Cadillac, who do you think will advance much farther? The answer to that is obvious.
Yes. Thank you, PJ. You bring some very valid points up there, and it's clear. But Jorge, I'd like to ask you the same question. Why is it important for those in charge of IT initiatives to be knowledgeable and aware of these trends in 2023 and beyond?
Well, first, hello everyone, and well, I think it's important for people with IT roles to be aware of these trends, as IT is not only the department in charge of managing and executing the tech stack of the organization, but also a reliable advisor for the business side. So in this scenario, and from a technical perspective, I think IT roles need to be aware of what's aware of what the next trends are, and how and which of these trends fit within the technological path of the organization. This is in order to prioritize their alignment with the organization's short, mid, long-term business IT strategies. So at the end of the day, they need to really be internal consultants for the organization.
Yes, I agree. Thank you both very much for your insight on why it's important for business decision makers and IT initiative people in those roles to be knowledgeable of these trends. Now that we've established the importance of these trends that we're going to be discussing today, let's start with the first one. This is artificial intelligence. And so, Jorge, I'd like to start with you, if that's okay. Are you ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, I think could you just update the slide?
Yes, yes. So could you please explain to us how artificial intelligence will be leveraged to improve business intelligence and business process management software, or to develop new BI and BPM solutions?
Well, I think it's no secret that today artificial intelligence is almost omnipresent in any type and category of enterprise software. And of course, this includes BI and BPM. In the case of BI, the incorporation of AI within enterprise software has stemmed in large part from the generation of data, or shall I say, massive volumes of data that normally many organizations generate on a daily basis. So that data must be analyzed in some way to glean business insights. So the addition of AI capabilities to BI software has changed the course and even the evolution of BI and the emergence of business analytics applications. For example, some very, very particular features routinely incorporated in BI include, for example, the ability to provide guided analysis, or the ability to augment the capabilities of any analytics scenario. In the case of BPM, for example, the introduction of AI capabilities to BPM applications have served to enhance the functionality offered by BPM software to really greatly improve and optimize business processes, as well as to, I don't know, to expand the use case in the industry. For example, for AI embedded BPM software, these offer two noteworthy capabilities. One is what we call process mining and optimization. We will address both of them later on, and process automation. So really, with AI embedded within BI and analytics offerings, it's now possible to really accelerate the overall analytics process with the help of a solution that learns from the available data and that really guides us throughout the process. It can suggest also ways to really have more efficiently run core processes, such as data cleansing and data preparation, as well as mining through data to help us find new patterns and new relevant questions. What it can also do is suggest, for example, the best visual charts for representation or the outcome that from a data analysis perspective. On the other hand, for example, for BPM tools, they now incorporate capabilities that can help collect all the data from a business process and really easily identify things such as, or problems such as bottlenecks, task duplication, and more. So this, in order to optimize our business processes, as well as flag those parts of the process or the full processes that are prone to be automated. So there are many things that we can add to that.
Thank you, Jorge. And I think we can all agree that, dealing with task duplications is very time consuming, and it's also very daunting. So it can definitely help.
It is.
PJ, so what can you tell us from an ERP and an SCM perspective on how will AI be leveraged to enhance the capabilities offered by ERP and SCM software?
No, great. As Jorge also, intimated in his great expose, the beauty of these AI or machine learning tools is that they are able to transform treasure trove of business data from various departments and sources into actionable insights and informed decision making and process improvements. So let's see what typically we see in ERP or supply chain management software or any other enterprise application for that matter. So on the left side of this slide are some typical current use cases and even benefits. It would be maybe unfair to now mention or single out any vendor that is using AI, given that almost all of them are offering something today, if they are worth their salt. And AI tools are now even becoming a commodity. There are plenty of available open source, tools and algorithms that vendors can leverage. And even now that almost everyone is going to the cloud, if you are using Microsoft Azure or Google Cloud Platform or Amazon Web Services or even Oracle Cloud Platform, they all come with some so-called cognitive services or some tools. But if I need maybe to single out or stipulate some most often use case scenarios and what has become what has gained the most traction when it comes to AI use, that would be in the procurement and accounts payable department. So think about these AI tools being able to perform cash flow prediction and late payment prediction, so that you can act on that in time, not after the fact. Mm-hmm. And same is about these tools doing like some automated closing on invoices, where they can even automatically recognize which payment is related to which invoice, which sounds very trivial if it's case of one invoice, which human can do easily. But what if we are talking about hundreds or maybe even thousands of invoices that the human needs to perform in a day? Mm-hmm. Then also we have all heard about scanning and OCR processing of invoices or expenses and filling the right fields in the ERP form or maybe in the Excel spreadsheet, just for the human to approve or agree with that, or maybe do some minor correction. And also think about like predicting any supplier issues. Let's say if these tools can predict that maybe your supplier quality is going to suffer soon, or God forbid your major supplier is even at the threat of going out of business, so you better start making some plans, in time, instead of being caught, unaware. But having said all this, on the right side of the slides, there are a couple of notes that we should be aware of that. So yes, these systems are going to be more and more intelligent every year, but we are talking about small evolutionary steps. We are not talking about major, quantum leap kind of a situation. And AI is still not available or accessible to regular users. It is still a prerogative of either data scientists or powerful IT users who are creating those models. We are not yet at that age where like a regular Joe or Jane can just go and construct their own AI models using low code or no code tools and then go run with that. So the smartest companies will walk and not run with intelligent automation anytime soon. And in fact, some companies have even experienced serious troubles if they try to do too much with the AI, because as Jorge said, you really need to have clean data, you need to have a proper model, your assumptions need to be correct. And also don't forget that, unfortunately, these AI tools come with some inherent bias, like racism or whatever, so you can really have nightmares if you really try to do too much. Okay. So I think I did cover what I meant to.
Thank you, PJ.
I realized that this slide was a bit busy, but okay. At least I didn't want to...
Actually, I think you explained it very clearly, and that was the whole point. So we greatly appreciate that. Thank you, PJ and Jorge. This is all actually very great information, because it's very clear that the potential of AI is really huge, and it's going to be one of those trends that we're going to be following very closely in the near future as it continues to transcend. So I'd like to continue on to the next trend, if that's okay. Let me just switch the slide here. Which is, the next trend is going to be on the Internet of Things and the industrial Internet of Things. Excuse me. So PJ, in a nutshell, what exactly is Internet of Things, IoT?
You might have advanced too fast. Isn't there a slide?
Pardon me.
Exactly.
Is this one correct?
Because I think Jorge will talk more about the industrial.
Yes, industrial Internet of Things.
Yes, maybe I'll focus more on the so-called consumer Internet of Things, meaning for us as a regular folks. So, okay, in spite of my youngish-looking age, and of course I'm joking, I still am not. I'm not a spring chicken. So, my first job was maybe 35 years ago as a junior maybe engineer in the production plant. So even at those times, I remember complex manufacturing equipment was equipped with some seriously complex PLC, programmable logic control, or SCADA devices, and which were monitoring the performance of those machines and trying to avoid costly downtime and all that. So the concept of these sensors on machines hasn't been new, but what is new is this internet connectivity and also the more affordable prices of these devices, so that it's now able to equip all our devices that we use at home, refrigerators, washing machines, even toothbrushes. And that is what I would call like a consumer in Internet of Things, because these machines use software, so-called firmware, and are benefit both us as users, but also their own manufacturers, because they send back very useful usage data to them. So as one interesting example, just think about our car being able to inform our house that we are maybe 10 minutes away from home. So how about turn up the lights, or maybe if it's winter, how about you warm up, or maybe in the summer, crank up the AC. And even my personal example, just I made a coffee before our webinar today, and my sophisticated Longi whatever espresso machine has a counter. It's counting how many shots it has made, and after a certain number of espresso shots, it's going to tell me, okay, it's time for you to descale me, and by the way, press this button and I'll lead you through the steps how to descale me.
That's fantastic. That is really fantastic. From a consumer, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
No,
continue.
I mean, fantastic or scary or whatever.
A little bit of both, right? Because it's nice that it lets you know, and you can be prepared, and you can send in the, for example, like my washing machine, I can be at the kids' karate, or I can soccer, or wherever I need to be, and I just push from the button on my phone to be able to wash, and that's amazing. But what other capabilities it has, it's a little scary.
Exactly.
So, but PJ, what are the benefits that a company can expect if it does embed IoT into capabilities into its software systems like ERP and SCM?
Well, okay, great. So, as maybe I hinted earlier, when it comes to artificial intelligence, so all these tools like IoT and mobility and bundled with artificial intelligence, they now come embedded in lots of these enterprise software solutions. You don't need to buy them as like some additional or separate modules. So what I've seen mostly as a real life scenarios and application is, especially when it comes to field service, and mobility. And you did mention even your laundry machine and all that, because we have all experienced like some cases of a laundry machine not working, and there is a crisis at the family, and we need badly that the technician to show up, and not only to show up and just do a diagnosis and say, oh, that part is done, so now you need to wait 3 weeks for that part to come, and then I'll come back and fix it. How about if that field service technician comes and knows exactly beforehand what is exactly that died on the machine, and makes even part and fix it showing up the first time. So in addition to that, what's the benefit maybe for the company is that there are now some smart, time booking and capture solutions that can follow geolocation and GPS data of a technician and knowing the current solution. So when the technician reports that some task is done or completed, then it pre-populates, automatically the location, and based on the location, then you even know what may be the rate for the labor, or maybe if there is any regulation for overtime and all that kind of useful stuff. Other cases other than field services, think about maybe all the telematics that we can use on trucks, given that now trucks are using expensive diesel, and not only that they are polluting the environment, but it is also expensive. So this telematics can detect if the driver is idling the truck unnecessarily, or even conversely, what if that telematics can detect that maybe the driver has been driving that truck for maybe 18 hours without any break. Not only that it's dangerous and can cause some serious accidents, but also there are the regulations in some states and wherever where there is a mandatory break that the drivers need to take.
Yeah, in Canada as well. We saw that recently as well.
Yeah, or maybe one more example. I'm aware of some grocery stores using IoT devices and maybe with some enterprise asset management solution to tell them, to alert them when some doors of those freezers are open or left ajar. So it's again twofold damage. One is that you are wasting more energy than necessary, whereas the other one is you get foggy windows, which means then the consumers most likely will just pass by without bothering to even open and see what is there and shop, because that's usually how it happens.
Yes, and that's so true, because think about it. Today, with a variety of ice cream and frozen yogurt flavors, I want to see the goodies. I don't want to see the foggy door. So please use whatever software you need to get that cleared.
Yeah, as they say, it's in plain sight. Yeah.
Exactly. PJ, so what industries is IoT being applied to most intensively, and how are these technologies actually being used?
Well, again, we go back to that. What do we think about when we say IoT? Are we talking strictly about shop floor and this industrial IoT, which Jorge is going to expand on more? Or are we talking about IoT wherever? Because I mean, honestly, now every bank or every retail store is using IoT, given that our own mobile phone have their own device IDs and revealing geolocation. So if a retail store knows that we are nearby and sending us like some promotion, what is that if not the IoT? But if I need to pick the industry, and I think it's also even obvious from what we've been talking, how we started, it would be consumer electronics. Because that's an industry that definitely benefits the most from the IoT. As I said, not only us as users that we get better experience, even maybe a little creepy experience or whatever, but also those manufacturers, they get a wealth of data back about the performance of their products, and also how to improve those products. And as a matter of fact, this advent of these IoTs has even produced the concept in product development, so-called MVP. It's not most valuable players like in sports, but it's more like a minimally viable product. What does that mean? Instead of initially over-engineering your products and putting all the bells and whistles that are not even needed, and it's too complex to manufacture them, and then the finished goods are even too expensive, you sort of develop something that will minimally satisfy the customer and will have an initial sales and buys. But then using these IoTs and performance, you see what the customers are really using, what not using, what they are really demanding, and you keep incrementally improving the product and the experience for the customer. So that's the true IoT, the meaning of IoT in my mind.
Okay, and I completely agree. So let's continue on with the discussion. Jorge, I'd like to ask you, if it's okay, what in a nutshell is industrial Internet of Things, the IoT? Now that we've
Yes, of course. In essence, and what PJ expand on, and with a very good explanation, in essence, the main difference between IoT is that IoT is a technology paradigm or a new trend that enables many, if not all, your electronic components, consumer components, your mobile, your fridge, your TV, like PJ mentioned, and more things that are now connected to the internet to really share data. The data can be then collected, processed, and analyzed, and enable devices to communicate between them together or with a service provider to really serve a really a main purpose, which is enhance user experience and service. Now, IoT refers to this technology set being applied to the consumer side of things, while on the other end, IoT with the extra I for industry focuses on industrial devices, machinery, sensors, and others, so they can be they are connected to the internet and in the same way. But yeah, they're devoted to the industrial side of things. So yes, between one I and two, we think we have it all covered.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it brings me kind of back to the point of the washer. I know that IoT is more consumer based and IIoT is more
and really what happens here is that I think we haven't explored the full potential of these technologies. I think we're just seeing at least my guess, in my personal opinion, is that we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg in this sense.
Yeah. So Jorge, what are the benefits of embedding IoT capabilities within BI and the BPM software?
Yeah, well, so PJ described a lot of cases that are really relevant, and in my case, I'm just going to see it from two main perspectives. On the BI side, for example, the integration of IoT capabilities within BI software really can bring many benefits. Some of the most relevant, for example, a best way to do trend forecasting, for example. So data coming from IoT devices can really help discover new patterns and predict with even more precision opportunities, risks, and failures. Remember, BI, it's all about taking the data and be able to analyze that data to provide a better service. Also then increase key business aspects, such as, for example, like we mentioned, customer experience and satisfaction. Business operations then can enable data coming from devices to really be analyzed and used to better understand and support key tactical decisions, for example. Now, on the BPM side, the integration with IoT capabilities offer really clear benefits. For example, one is that enables BPM really to comply with a main function, which is to orchestrate and overcome silos and disparate systems with the ability to really create seamless what we call now sensor-aware processes. So we take information directly from the source and we can really orchestrate business processes based on that. And then what we really do is bridge the physical with the digital aspect of the company to really create that overall sense of business process. Now, of course, it can make it possible really to design and deploy more efficient business operations that merge that gap, or that close that gap between the physical and the software aspect of the company.
Mm-hmm. And which industries are leveraging IoT most intensively, and how?
It's that's a difficult question, because I think IoT is now, or IIoT, industrial IoT is really affecting every industry. Overall, many, if not all, industries are now being influenced by the use of IoT capabilities, but perhaps a few deserve a special mention. For example, we have manufacturing, we have retail and logistics, and we have we have healthcare, for example. And in manufacturing, and the manufacturing sector, consider, for example, the case where shop floors can easily equip robots with sensors to send data directly to a BPM solution. Then the process can directly trigger, for example, the next activity, which could include initiating robots or machinery, or for subsequent activities such as deployment of raw material, and that can trigger automatically one step of the BPM process. It could also trigger, for example, and send data to an actually to an ERP system to update information or activate, for example, labor security activities. In the case, for example, of healthcare, let's talk about healthcare. IoT devices are increasingly being used, for example, to improve the quality of remote care and telehealth, for example. IoT devices can collect data from sensors coming from what we call assisted living devices, for example, to check on the elderly and the sick in a remotely way. So all this without disrupting their quality of life, for example. This data can be submitted to BPM systems, and they can trigger necessary or further verification or additional actions, such as, for example, in-person visits, and trigger access to specialized healthcare solutions. So really, the inclusion of IoT features within BPM systems can really extend the functional capability of BPM to orchestrate business activities in a really, really more extensive way.
And healthcare is especially interesting, as you mentioned before, that internet, the IoT devices can actually collect the data that not only monitor the people with illnesses remotely, but maybe in forward thinking, be able to predict like at what point they need to be seen beforehand, so it's there's not any kind of issues there. Thank you. Go ahead.
Just go ahead.
Sorry for interruption, but I've heard about an interesting case. Where in healthcare, for example, these nurses and doctors, they're equipped with certain devices and all that. And let's say there is an emergency, like some serious emergency, but the doctor or nurse that are assigned to that particular patient are already busy elsewhere. Then there is even the system that can even use the AI and proximity and the skills of other available stuff that can then maybe direct to them and say, okay, please tend to this emergency.
Exactly. But and not only emergencies, you can interact with the system. So like I said, you can really trigger activities that are not necessarily an emergency, but are part of the checking well-being process. And this is part of it. So the interesting fact of this is that you can merge both the regular business process, if you will, with the actual healthcare activities. And this is normally a really difficult part of a system, to really integrate those not necessarily seamless things, aspects of the company, right?
Definitely another one of those trends we're going to be following very closely, because I think it has a lot of value across every industry to provide for us in day-to-day life. So let's talk about the third trend, which is self-service. Now we know it's not a new trend. It's it's not a recent trend, but it is one that's been coming up more and more, and it's been developing a lot in the last few years. And the functionality is really paramount to businesses and to almost every organization. So Jorge, how about you? Can you tell us the current state of BI and BPM solutions with respect to self-service functionality, and why we should consider self-service as a trend for 2023 and beyond?
Yeah, of course. Well, like you mentioned, the idea of providing users with self-service capabilities is really, really not new. So for many years, software companies have been in search of developing solutions that really afford users the freedom to acquire software services independently of external intervention, especially that of the IT department. We tend not to be like a lobbying like a love department, if you will. But yet, until recently, I guess self-service capabilities were limited and really constrained to a set of pre-configured options. Normally, we used to tend to use self-service as users guided through wizards or via a limited set of tools. Now, with the introduction of all these technology that we have been talking about, with the integration of advanced tools, again, AI, ML, some development tools, and really other types of systems, systems are really able to learn about each user experience and really guide and configure a specific self-service options for users. In the case, for example, of BI, self-service capabilities today rely on providing an environment that enables users to explore data by themselves and really create their own data visualizations and analysis solutions, for example, charts, dashboards, and reports on an independent manner, and not necessarily having to rely on IT. For example, in the case of BPM, self-service means allowing users to have access, for example, to resources without the need of assistance. So you can create a portal where you get documents, add-ons, you can deploy add-ons, or you really or customization of their own process dashboards, as well as of course being able to configure their own personal environment. And this has an adaptability to it. Now, on the other hand, self-service is currently also encouraged, but specifically in BPM, by the integration of technologies, for example, such as low-code or no-code application development. PJ mentioned something interesting in this case. Yeah, even though there's still a lot of road to go with these technologies, they enable typical business users, that is, those that are not necessarily programming savvy, to develop their own specific business processes without the need for coding. So really, a self-service approach to both BI and BPM can really bring three main benefits. And I think everyone understands those benefits quite easily. One is the availability. 24/7. These services for BI and BPM specialists will be available for users without the need of a third party to provide to them. That means that BPM resource portal or a BI instance will be always available for them. The other benefit is independence. So users can really develop or configure their resources and rely on IT teams only for technical support, and not necessarily for the development. They can create their own environment, they can create their own specific tools. And I guess finally, as a summary, a more agile approach to the provision of services. Users have the development tools to be able to react to an issue in real time, or at least in a faster way, for building a process or an analytic solution, and they receive only the needed support from IT, less intervention, and a more agile way to respond to the business.
And Jorge, I think this can really help businesses in respect to, being able to predict trends, adjust their sales, and overall spend more time on making money versus, and selling the right product at the right time, and outwinning their competitors.
Most people would say that now BI or BPM are getting more into the tactical aspect of business, and not necessarily into the strategic type of business part of the business.
And so, PJ, what can you tell us about self-service and what the state of self-service is within the ERP and supply chain systems with respect to this self-service capabilities? What can you tell us about that?
Well, great. I certainly can agree with and concur that self-service and portals are not like something new. I remember them even in the late 1990s. There were portals in the ERP system, and I even think that movie, being John Malkovich, was released in 1999, which talks about entering the portal of John Malkovich. But what is new is, again, coming back to the smartness and the AI tools of the system. So while previously you had to go yourself and do some self-service, like submitting your invoices and all that. You need to make sure that everything is correct. Now the system can check that for you and alert you of any sort of incorrect things based on some rules, or even the system can learn over time what certain supplier prefers or not. Or let's say the typical self-service for us as employees is like every year we are opting for like a new benefits or whatever. Not only, let's say we are a new employee and we are doing the onboarding for the first time, or the year comes and now you need to decide about what kind of benefits package you want to use. So the system can be smart, and based on your age or where you are in your life cycle, do you have kids that will soon go to the university? Are you close to the retirement or not? Can even suggest some options for you for your pension fund or for your deductions or whatever else, tax deductions and all those kinds of things. Or it can, let's say, given that we even mentioned that now everyone, or most of us are mobile workers, and we go and do some consulting, or the field technicians or whatever, they need to submit their completion of their orders or their hours or whatever. The system is now smart to tell you if you are doing something incorrectly and alert you. So that's all basically that self-service is about now. It has always been here, but it's getting smarter and smarter, and leaves less to risk and to errors. But if I can ask you to go to the slide.
Yeah, can you see the slide?
There is the slide. Yes, that one.
Yes. Okay.
So one example of an extra mile of one vendor, and I'm pretty sure other vendors are busy in those regards of going even like an extra mile when it comes to self-service. I was recently made aware of this Sage Digital Network, which I'm not sure if it is already generally available or it will be soon. But in any case, what Sage plans to do is to offer extra, business services to all of their ERP users, and not only those that are on the most modern cloud ERP systems, but even on the legacy on-demand systems, they can still subscribe to this cloud service. So what does this service do is, as you can see, there are several constituencies here. So enterprises can do their banking, straight from their ERP, using the integration with the bank corporate cards and all that. They can submit tax documents to the tax authorities. Their suppliers can in self-service submit their invoices, but then you can then automatically match those invoices to purchase orders and do like en masse payments for these suppliers. And similar is also with the buyers, and delivering their orders, and then they submit their orders in self-service. But what is important are all these extra collaboration or even regulatory services that this digital network will offer, where machine learning tools are scouring through all these transactions, through all the glut of these transactions, and can learn things and come up with some suggestions. And they can, for example, detect any frauds in the system, or they can even sort of certify and make sure who the trusted payments are, trusted parties and all that. And they can even maybe synchronize in your ERP, in the general ledger, can synchronize the dimensions that you are having, or accounts in your general ledger. And the system not only will say that something is wrong, but can even provide some recommendations and prescription how to solve so-called prescriptive analytics and all that. So that's something that we should expect in foreseeable future, not so distant future, and I'm pretty sure that many other cloud ERP vendors will follow suit.
Yeah,
because I know of some vendors that, like NetSuite or whatever, they already offer some integration with certain banks and all that, but we will even go farther into all these kinds of ecosystem and trading network.
I can see. Yeah. I can see how that would make finance's job a lot easier. Be a lot happier.
Yeah.
Thank you both for this valuable insight. Again, this is one of those trends that we're going to be following closely to see how it transcends. I'd like to move on to the last trend for today that we're going to talk about, which is automation. I said that yesterday as well. Automation. And Jorge, can you explain in a few words what automation is and what the state of BI and BPM systems, with respects to automation, and why do you consider this to actually be a trend for 2023 and beyond?
Yeah, I think PJ will expand way more, because I think he's really knowledgeable about automation. But well, a common and easy definition of automation describes the use of machines and computers that can operate without needing human control. That's the basic definition. Now, today, the implementation of automation technologies has really reached all functions within many industries. So we can range from installation and assembly to design and maintenance. As the reach and application of automation have expanded, I guess automation is now increasingly making an impact on what we call on the so-called non-physical tasks, and this includes, for example, procurement, management, even marketing and sales functions. We're talking about automation of specific software functions. So today, automation entails the use of a very broad number of technologies, ranging from process and measurement control sensors to really robotics and expert systems, all aiming to reduce human interaction in favor of enabling computers to perform especially repetitive tasks. Now, regarding specifically regarding BI, some of the things that automation has been adding to BI solutions, for example, include really specific capabilities, for example, to auto discover insights and to really rank those insights, not just discover new insights, but rank how important those insights might be for a company. Another key or another interesting fact about the automation in BI is to automate repetitive data preparation tasks. For example, taking a document and being able to complete the document, to correct the document when the process is more a repetitive one. Now, in the case of BPM, as we mentioned earlier, and during the webinar, the introduction of AI and other advanced technologies has led to the evolution of what some in the BPM spectrum space call hyper-automation. And this refers to the boosting of automation capabilities with well-established rule-based decisions, and which afford BPM systems added flexibility and a really low number of exception handling. So now, process automation means more than just repeating mechanically a set of steps, but it means having a repetitive yet flexible set of steps that can adapt based on rules or based on data that the system learns to interpret. Some well-known examples of the application of hyper-automation capabilities within big industries, for example, include these companies that can automate processes such as automatically filling employee information forms, for example, setting up introduction sessions, or arranging training sessions automatically during the employee onboarding process. So most of that particular or really painful task would be you could be able to automate. For example, on financials and insurance institutions, you can automate steps to enable a user to acquire, for example, flexible banking and insurance services, all based on the knowledge the institution has on each user's needs. So the system is able to adapt and create that automatic set of services for them, and they can really apply and do the process by themselves or within an automated system. So today it seems that the potential for automating services is really greater than ever. And I think again, like we mentioned on other technologies, we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg.
And I can see how it would help businesses in respect from, like, once the sales order comes in, it goes to inventory, to finance, to shipping, and it's streamlined, so that makes it so much easier. And PJ, what's your take on the state of ERP and supply chain management systems with respect to this automation, and why do you think we should consider this as a trend for 2023 and beyond?
Well, sure. Again, if I can ask you to advance to the next slide.
I will get it down before the end. My apologies.
Yeah, no problem. So I think we've covered the use of automation and artificial intelligence in the ERP quite a lot. So maybe I'll focus here mostly on automation in supply chain. And here on the slide, you see all the reasons why we need it. And maybe one that is maybe less expected these days is labor shortages, given that we keep hearing about layoffs on a daily basis, but it's mainly in the tech industry. It is now debatable why is that happening. Is it maybe just pure virtue signaling by these vendors to software vendors to their investors, or maybe they did get over bloated in hiring during the COVID and all that. But the fact is that in lots of blue collar segments, there are serious labor shortages, particularly in warehouses, in distribution centers, and even maybe in retail stores. I just read the local news recently here in Boston that Walgreens and CVS pharmacies are going to shorten their hours because of the shortage of pharmacists. People cannot give us our meds and all that, so there are simply not enough pharmacists, so shorter hours and all that. So in any case, why is automation needed in supply chain? Not only because of the labor shortage, but we also have customer demands that are increasing in some cases, and they are getting even more demanding. Those customers, they're spoiled by the Amazon's one-day delivery, mandate or whatever else. But also with the growth of this e-commerce, it is much more difficult for people in distribution centers to handle these each individual orders versus simply pallets or whatever else before. So when it comes to supply chain, there is lots of so-called hardware or physical automation. But even those hardware pieces, like robots or cobots, so-called cobots, they also use some software, for optimizations and for scheduling and whatever else. So yes, we are seeing lots of the expansion of using these so-called AMR, autonomous mobile robots, whether they can do that on their own or together with a human, in which case they are called cobots. Then drones are being used, even self-driving vehicles, although I'm not sure whether self-driving vehicles are still for truly commercial news, especially since we every day hear about some Tesla, self-driven Tesla having an accident. Who knows? Maybe this Elon Musk should focus more on Tesla than on trolling on the internet, but I digress. So, other automation that we are seeing, especially in the retail stores, of course, there are now these customer self-service lockers, customers picking orders on their own, or even these checkouts in grocery stores where it's self-service, you go yourself. But one area where I'm seeing lots of improvement and using automation, and especially maybe with some artificial intelligence, is these store employees, especially all those people that need to do task management when we are talking about creating promotions here, or maybe some nice marketing part within a store, or maybe those store associates can be alerted when some important customers enter the store, so you already have the history of that customer and his or her preferences. Or maybe these store employees can be alerted of any unexpected foot traffic, or maybe some crowding in a store, so someone maybe should go and help out the person who cannot handle all those customers. Or maybe if there is nobody there, but there is like some crowding, are we talking about any pilferage, or maybe that kind of possibility? So that's all. These are all the examples of automation. Maybe another example that I've seen recently is when we talk about like transportation spot markets, and especially we've heard recently that transport capacity was booked ahead over time and all that. Maybe it's been now relieved, but often these shippers they go to these spot markets where maybe they can find some some offers that are not part of a long-term contract and all that. And that process is quite pedestrian at the moment, because all those both shippers and carriers, they keep getting a gazillion of emails and offers and all that. So there are some vendors that are now offering, again, like some artificial intelligence tools that can scout through all these offers and can maybe inform accordingly both the shipper and both the certain carrier. And then the success rate is much higher in that case than trying to do that manually. Most of these missed opportunities are tremendous if you are doing that manually. Okay.
That's
so
something that we
think of at this stage.
And that's something that we hear a lot about from clients is, the having to wait for things to happen, and they want that streamlined process to be instantaneously. No one wants to be waiting around. We're all busy people. So, we're coming up to the top of the hour, but I wanted to give you and PJ and Jorge the opportunity, if there's any last comments or anything you wanted to mention in respects to all of the trends that we discussed today before we open the floor to some questions.
Yeah, well, if you don't mind, I'll just take a minute to say the following, and this is I think well, many business users are aware of the importance of, for example, any type of software, BPM and BI. I think there's kind of there's still many organizations that not have the capabilities or readiness to really undertake business process improvement or this transformation. So I guess my only comment would be that let's not forget that BI and business process management are really disciplines. And these disciplines empower organizations to achieve higher levels of business insight or process efficiency. And we need to take into consideration that BI and BPM software solutions and their technologies, their technology capabilities are really just the tools that empower them to achieve a company desired outcome. So I think it's important to create that sense that we still need to do a lot as a company to really prepare or getting ready for that, and to really optimize the disciplines and really work on having the culture to take the most advantage of those of those tools. So again, one important aspect to keep in mind is how these organizations are really using BPM or are going to be able to use BPM and BI, and also how marketplaces, in this case software providers, are really working towards preparing organizations and users to really take advantage or take the necessary capabilities and resources and exploit them to the full of these capabilities of modern software to really achieve business success. I think that it's not only about the tool, it's also about the good discipline within an organization.
Mm-hmm. And thanks to you and PJ, we're able to stay on top of these latest and greatest trends and understanding how they evolve as we go. PJ, did you have anything you'd like to add before we have a couple questions here that I see for both of you, so I'm excited to jump right into them.
Sure. I'll be very concise in the interest of time. That Craig Charles quote, "It's evolve or die," is certainly applicable here. So, yeah.
Thank you, PJ.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, PJ. I appreciate that. So thank you everyone for joining us. I'd like to open the floor to some questions if anybody would like to go ahead and start the round of questions while everyone's getting organized. And all you have to do is raise your hand. There should be on the left-hand side of your screen a little pop-up, and you can just raise your hand and we can open the mic and let you ask your question. To start, I do see, while everyone's getting comfortable and maybe a little cold feet, I'll go ahead and start with one of the questions that I see here in the chat, and it says for PJ and Jorge from Astrid Soren, you mentioned that AI is not yet for the regular Joe. How can I know if my company is ready to implement AI?
Oh, that's a good question. Great question. Is that PJ? Do you want to address that?
Well, it is sort of a philosophical question. How can I know when my company is ready to use AI? Because I know for sure that your company is probably already using AI. There's just that maybe we, even in our personal lives, we are using AI. We are just not aware of that. Even this OCR. Lots of people don't consider OCR now, optical character recognition, as an AI, but it is seriously an AI because it is a visual recognition. But it is so commoditized that we don't even think about that as an AI, and it's already, but it is an AI, and we are already using that via scanning whatever else, and then converting that into PDFs or whatnot. Or maybe even this Siri or Alexa in our apartments or whatever else. Is that AI? Of course it is. It's natural language processing and all that. So probably your company is already using some AI. If not, then it should. But at least it should use for these, as I said, for those really maybe now even trivial looking examples, like of submitting invoices or any kind of automation that is helping or augmenting some human work, instead of controllers or accountants spending an enormous amounts of time just handling all those invoices and all that. How about them being able to do some more like strategic thinking or some value add activities, instead of just doing manual legwork and mindless work?
Yeah.
So I would start from there, and there are lots of already available these routines. One should think about AI as sort of like macros or like some simple subroutines that can be automated and all that. And I would really start from some easy sort of low-hanging fruit. I wouldn't really try to now use AI to cure the hunger or whatever else in the world, but bite-sized steps. And that's why I'm saying probably it is still being handled by your IT managers or some data scientists and all that, who needs to devise all those models to make sure that those models are going to really work, you know, and produce wrong results, and even in some cases really detrimental results, you know. Anything you can add, Jorge?
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting question, because I think that this is a question that many companies have with themselves. Are we ready to really apply AI technologies? And I think the most important thing in this case is getting a little bit practical and see what the need is for AI. And then from that point on, you can think about these two ways. One is to use AI as a collateral tool, which means embedded within any other service, an RPA, like for example, a robotic process automation service, a conversational, like you said, like PJ mentioned, a natural language processing unit. So I think that what you need to do really is identify the case where you could be, where the company would be prone to adopt any AI technology. Again, perhaps like collateral service. And then from that point on, maybe think if you're really gonna develop something more unique to your company, that, or complex enough that you really need to address it as a, as a package from AI. For example, use Python, or you have the resources to do that. Then you also identify that case and say, okay, so now we need to address a specific strategy for AI, which means a more complex structure to go from, right? So to start from. But if you really identify the use case, then you can identify what you really need is an AI service, a full-fledged AI development service, or you really need a collateral tool that uses an application-based use of AI. And again, I just mentioned there are plenty of examples out there about services, RPAs, business, a BPM with embedded intelligence, a BI service with a combination of AI tools for predictive, etc. So there are many things. And I think PJ mentioned before on during the webinar a very interesting case where most ERPs are now embedded with such of those capabilities. So you might not need, you might be in the case that you don't really need a full-fledged, the department for developing an AI solutions, but you already have an ERP or a CRM or a type of software that has certain capabilities based on AI that, like PJ mentioned, you don't even know that they're based on AI, that can really comply with the needs that you might have. So I think there's always, like any other type of software, I think you first need to assess what your needs are, what your process, what your case study is, or your use case, sorry, and then from that point on, really go for it. So I think there's always a way to start, and we know that because we do this in this company. We help companies to select their software. So that's normally that's the best way to start.
Thank you, Astrid. I hope that both Jorge and PJ answered your question. Thank you for your question. It's very interesting, and Jorge is right. That is what we do every day, FYI. We have another question here from Luis K. Does every solution in the market offer IoT functionality? And can you maybe provide some examples, please?
Well, I'm just gonna briefly take on this one, just because I guess, for example, depends on the case scenario, and depends very much on the software. But I guess, for example, for BPM and BI, there's a plethora of tools that incorporate IoT capabilities. If we talk about, for example, full-fledged platforms such as Cloudera, full-fledged BPM players such as K2 and others. So you can really find a lot of solutions that can incorporate. Now, most companies are now mingling software and mingling with different software types of solutions and incorporate them with the specific IoT capabilities. There's for example, Gotland offers Prophecy IoT, which is an analytic solution as specifically designed for industrial IoT. And that's, for example, a very interesting solution. So yeah, in the market, it would be difficult to mention just a vendor, and I'm particularly on BI and BPM, but I'm pretty sure PJ will give you examples, plenty of examples of other areas such as ERP and supply chain.
Well, even in that realm is a little bit tricky, just to mention some vendors and all that, but as a sort of general rule, most of ERP systems don't come with their own IoT application development platform. I mean, it would be maybe too much to expect, but they all come with these microservices APIs that enable you to connect to whichever platform you need, whether it's ThinkWorks by PTC or you name it, whatever Siemens offers or whoever else. One vendor that I maybe was aware did make some IoT acquisition. I'm not sure if it was again the full-fledged application development platform, but at least there is like some embedded connectivity to IoT. I know that Plex did that, Plex ERP before it got acquired by Rockwell, so which somehow makes sense now, because Rockwell, of course, is also into that business, IoT and making their own devices and all that kind of stuff. But I'm pretty sure every leading vendor will have like IoT gateways.
Yeah, connectors and stuff like that.
I hope that answers your question, Luis. We have another question here from Andrea Reyes. Is it safe to have IoT in all over our life? I mean, what about security? That's a good question. I want to answer to that.
That's always the question.
Well, what security are we talking about? If it's cyber security, then of course, boy, anyone can spy on you. Or I was even thinking about this. I was talking to some. Imagine someone, you are driving a Tesla or whatever other, and imagine if someone can hack and they want to kill you or whatever else, and they just make sure that the car speeds up at 120 miles or whatever, and you hit the pole or whatever, But in any case, let's not go too crazy about that. But when it comes to the shop floor and all that, IoT sort of helps the security of and safety of the work. These devices and all that. You can be equipped all those robots, because it's not unusual that the robot can injure the human with some sudden moves or whatever. So when you use IoT devices to limit those moves, then we are talking about safety of human in that regard, sort of in a positive matter. But cyber security is always there, and I definitely am completely clueless when it comes to cyber security. All I know is for myself to make sure that all the passwords are as complicated as possible, or whatnot else, firewalls or whatever. And I'm not sure who's going to hack tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, in my case, I just want to add that I don't think there's a service nowadays, and even before, that has 100% security ensured. I think there's always a risk for exposure. Now, but yeah, I think my recommendation would be, if it's on the consumer side, and where you're acquiring some of these services, well, I think it would be it would be healthy to check on some of the security measures that the company can or the software has been incorporating, and even maybe how that connects to other advanced security systems, if you will. So I'm not also a security expert, but normally that's what we do, right? So we buy the software, we check some of the security measures, and if that can also be reinforced with others, such as, I don't know, a VPN service, anyway, any other type of security would do that. Now, in the case of industrial IoT, there's still a segment of the industry reluctant to go to the cloud or to go to certain services just because of that. And it makes sense because in some manufacturing, for example, scenarios, or especially on healthcare, that security is a main concern. So if you're talking company-wise, well, I think you should consult experts on that. So it's better to really, do the labor and put your head down and work a little bit on what security offers to you, especially when you're talking with a vendor, and how these services also can be reinforced with third-party options, etc. Again, not being an expert, but I think, yeah, security should be a main concern, but it's not necessarily a stop or a constraint to adopt software, because there's no solution that has at least in my view, there's no solution that has a 100% security or a less or a free risk assurance on that particular aspect. So.
Yeah. Thank you both for your response. I'm not sure how comfortable hearing that now I would be with IoT, and I'm completely involved in my life. But I hope that answers your question, Andrea. We have quite a bit of questions today. I'm very excited to see that.
Okay.
Stella Smith, it says for PJ and Jorge again, if AI can help you predict supply shortages and helps you know when to stock up, to what percentage would you say the recommendations are accurate? Oh, okay. Do you want me to repeat the question?
Well, no, go ahead, PJ.
I would always be reluctant to put any number. I mean, because it all, and there is always an easy answer saying, oh, depends on this or depend on that. But seriously, what concrete example or case are we talking about? Is it for retail? Is it for like high volume products, or is it maybe for some really complex manufacturing, or is it for some rare metals that you can find only now in China or unfortunately in Russia? So what do you do there? What is it that the system is? But certainly the system should make some improvements for sure, based on history, and especially if it can even act quickly on the current difficulties or whatever, than doing nothing or doing business as usual. So surely it will have some improvements. Is it 5%, 10%, 15%? I cannot definitely say, honestly. It would all be on a case by case basis.
Yeah, I think it's on a case by case basis. You're right. But I also guess there's an interesting approach that some companies are taking that they call the augmented approach, which is they use part of the process to calculate based on AI, but at the end of the day is also a human intervention. There's still a human intervention, and this is because some people discovered that AI does not necessarily needs to be used to replace, but to augment the chances of success, and works in collaboration with truly specialists on that. So if you have the supervision of an expert on that, and then you use AI on a certain way, on a limited but on those areas of opportunity, you might get better results. It's hard to say if, like PJ mentioned, it's hard to say how the level of accuracy. I guess, but this is my guess, that, well, companies such as Amazon and others have a really have a really good approach on that because they're being successful. But also this opens the door for a very interesting phenomena that is now happening. What now, I mean, with COVID, everything was trying to be, we stumble upon automating processes and stuff. Now we're getting to a more stable economy, and we're seeing layoffs and a lot of those things happening. So I think that AI is going to get increasingly important, but like PJ said, I think you need to have a word of caution there and really just use it again, really calculate those areas of opportunity, but still make sure that the expert side or the human expert is still there making the decisions and really making sure that the system is not really taking off or making mistakes that are necessarily are not are important to avoid.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that AI, I mean, at this stage still doesn't have is and cannot be the humans is a hunch. I mean, intuition, hunch, and emotions or whatever. So once it reaches that level, then we are in trouble. But I think we are far. Still, we still have some time, before that happens.
Thank you both for your response. Stella, I hope that answers your questions. If you have anything to follow up with that, just let us know. Jorge, there's a question for you. It's from Michael P, and it says, you said before that AI is basically omnipresent on any software. Can I assume for sure that AI is present on all analytic solutions in the market?
Well, at least on the popular ones, yeah, you might find that, for example, and you can talk about companies such as, for example, Tableau. Tableau just acquired some companies that provide AI services. And for example, Tableau, you find them on Microsoft solutions. And you can find them both ways. You can find them explicitly, like as tools to develop AI-based solutions, but you can find them also implicitly. What I mentioned is, like, for example, you now have tools that learn from your usage of the data, and then they kind of guide you through a process and say, okay, based on the data that you normally use, this would be the best way to go with a chart, with a graph, or with a dashboard. So yeah, I mean, at least the big ones, Oracle, SAP, Microsoft, they have been embedding certain AI features, and not necessarily call them AI-based features, but most of them are, and it really they might not be fully AI, but at least machine learning based, which is part of the AI process. So yeah, most of them are starting to use them. There's a company there's a company called Outlier. They use a really interesting way of machine learning to detect, for example, and the company is called Outlier because what they do is they specialize in finding, for example, during an analysis, the outliers. And this is very interesting, a really interesting aspect of the company, just to mention.
All I meant to say is only I refer to these AI tools that are already available, but we are not even aware that it's some kind of artificial intelligence. I call them AI, but standing for augmented intelligence. It's just augmenting the human's work. It's not as intelligent as humans, far from that. So for that reason, I would call them, augmented intelligence, not like some AI like from the Spielberg movies. Or
no, that's a good approach, a really good approach, and a lot of people is taking that approach, which is, I think, more appropriate.
Well, thank you guys. That's all the time we have for questions for today for you guys. But I did want to thank both PJ and Jorge and technowebinars.com for their solid support in continuing to make panel discussions like this and our webinars go on, because we do talk about some very interesting and very relevant trends and topics. One last thing before we go is I wanted to mention, in case you're not aware, that TEC is moderating the upcoming ESS, which is Enterprise Software Showcase event. It's going to be in April, the 24th to the 27th, I want to say, 25th to the 27th. And it's going to be in Scottsdale, Arizona. And if you've never been, that is the time of year to go. But more importantly, the event is to be able to give those that are in the enterprise software research and evaluation phase for their organization an opportunity to be able to compare side by side different solutions through the leading software vendors, but through scripted demonstrations. You'll be able to network with other people in the industry and learn about the different challenges that you have, and even more importantly, you'll be able to have one-on-one sessions with the vendors, but also with TEC, because we're going to be there moderating some of our software selection experts to have discussions about, what your approach and your methodology is. To be clear, it's not an event where you're going to go and make a selection and that's it, bye-bye. It's more of an event where you can go and gain valuable insight on this is what's happening under the hood, this is what we can expect, to help you cover at least, 6-8 weeks of intense research that you can expect to see when going through an evaluation and selection. Again, thank you guys very, very much. You covered some very interesting topics. I wish everyone a fantastic day. Thank you to the audience.
Thank you for great moderation.
I'll work better on the slides next time, but it's always a pleasure to work with you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a great day.
Gracias, Victoria. Hasta luego.
Hasta luego, Oscar. Muchas gracias. Feliz día.